Hello engineers, welcome back. In the previous video, we studied about conditional statements in C++. In this video, we're going to learn about loops. Okay, let's get started. So we use loops to make the computer do repetitive things. So we want the computer to do the same thing again and again, and we can make use of loops to do that. We will take a simple example and try to understand how we can use these three different kinds of loops available to do repetitive tasks. Okay, so what are loops? Used for repeating things, repeating the same action. A simple example would be I want to print the first 10 numbers. I want to print the first 10 numbers. So in order to do this, I can either do like this, cout 1, cout 2, and so on all the way up to 10, cout 10. This will still work, but this is wrong. This is not how we are supposed to code. We can make use of a feature in C++ called loops to make this task a little easier. Now, this was only 10 numbers. You imagine you had 1000 numbers or 10,000 numbers. You won't be writing cout for every one of them, right? So we need an efficient solution. So we have something called loops. Now let's talk about the first loop statement, which is the while loop. Now, in order to do the same bit, printing first and numbers, I can make use of loops and I will use while loop first. So let me write down the syntax and then we'll break it down and understand. Okay, now let's say I have an integer I and I will equate it to 1. Now while I is less than or equal to 10, I want you to cout I. So let's see how this works. Now, so this while is a loop statement. So whenever the compiler says the while, it knows that it is a loop statement. And what is the syntax of while? It takes a condition. It takes a condition, and we can pass any condition into this into these brackets. So what is the condition we have passed? I is less than or equal to 10. So as long as I is less than or equal to 10, keep doing this. Keep doing this block of code. Keep doing this block of code. So what happens inside? We are printing I. So I is less than or equal to 10. The value of I is 1, and this condition is now true. So the execution goes inside, and we are printing cout I. So if this is the output, so we have 1 as the output. Now what happens after that? Like I said, as long as this condition is true, the compiler will keep uh, executing this block of code. So what is the value of I? I is 1, and we have printed I. Have we changed I? We haven't changed I in any way. So this statement will still be true, and we will keep seeing 1 1 1 infinite times. So that is not what we want. This type of condition is an infinite loop, and eventually uh, the program might crash eventually. We don't want this. What we want to do is use a proper loop, and we know exactly when to come out of the loop also. So when do we need to come out of the loop? Whenever I is not less than or equal to 10. Whenever I is not less than or equal to 10, then this condition will become false and the execution comes out of this loop. So what do we need to do? We simply need to change the value of I. We need I to go higher up by one number. So we can simply do I equal to I plus 1. What happens now? It's the first time when this code is running, I is 1 and I is less than or equal to 10, which is true, and then we are printing 1, and then the current value of I will become 2. I equal to I plus 1, the value will become 2. Let's track the value of I also. Sorry, the value of I was initially 1, now the value is 2. Now again the compiler goes back and checks this condition. is I still less than or equal to 10? The value of I is 2, 2 is less than or equal to 10, so print I 2, and then we increment I again, and then the compiler goes and checks the condition, it prints 3 and increments I, and this goes on all the way up to 10, all the way up to 10. So what happens when we reach 10? I is less than or equal to 10, it prints 10, and then the value of I becomes 11. Now the value of I is 11, and then the condition is now false, so the execution comes out of this loop. Okay, so this is how we can print the first 10 numbers in just 3 lines of code, and we don't have to write so many cout statements. Okay, let's try to run this in our code. Let's go to Visual Studio Code. So I have created a new file called loops, and I have created the base template, and we can directly get started. Okay, so we have an integer called I, and I is 1, and we have the while statement. Now we need to pass in a condition here. Our condition is I is less than or equal to 10. Whenever this condition is true, compiler comes inside, and we are printing out I. Now because we want to print I in a single line every time, I'll just use endl, and I need to increment I equal to I plus 1. Okay, let's run this code. So execution is done, and we can see 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, so our code is working. So let's say I have not put this line, and let's run it and see what will happen. We should go into an infinite loop. See, it's printing. So this is in an infinite loop. To stop this, use the stop button on the top right. So we should be very wary about when to use infinite loops. It can cause the programs to crash, so we should be carefully programming these loops. Okay, now let's continue. Let's put our statement back. So it is taking a while to stop. Let's give it a second. Okay, now it has stopped. Okay, now let's rerun our code just to check if we are okay. Yes, we are back to normal. Okay. So that is while loop. Now let's talk about the second type of loop, which is do while. So all these three are useful for making repetitive actions, but with slight differences. Okay, now we have discussed while. While takes a condition, and uh, it executes the block of code as long as this condition is met repetitively. Okay, do while is also similar, but there's a slight difference. Let me write the syntax and then we'll discuss about it. So it goes like this: do something while condition. So our condition was while I less than or equal to 10, and then we were doing cout I, and then we were doing I equal to I plus 1, right? So just like a while loop, the condition is still being checked, but this piece of code will get executed once, the first time this line will get executed, and then the condition is checked. In the typical while loop, first the condition is checked, and only if the condition is true, then the code is getting executed inside. But in a do while loop, first this code is getting executed, and then the condition is checked. So at least once this line of code is executed. At least once this line will run, and then the condition is executed. So let's write this in code. So let's comment out while loop. Let's do while. We will still print it out. We will increment I, and here we will do the condition check. Okay, let's try to run this code and see. Let's clear the output. So as you can see, we still get the same output. The difference being this line got executed the first time without even checking the condition. And after checking the condition, if this condition is still valid, then the loop repeats. Otherwise, the loop will not repeat and we will simply come out of the statement. Okay. So that is do while. By the way, you don't need to do I equal to I plus 1. There is a simpler operator available in C++ and other languages. We can simply do I plus plus. This is an increment operator. This is another type of special operator that we see often in coding. So it does the same thing. It does I equal to I plus 1. Okay. Let's run this code just to show you that it works. And it works. Okay. We have a decrement operator as well. It's in a similar way. If you want to reduce I by 1, we can use I minus minus. Okay. Just an operator specially given to do increment and decrement. Okay. So that is do while. And then we have for loop. For loop is a special case. It still does repetitive work, but it has little more extra features that we can play around with. Let's write the syntax and then we'll do. So this is my syntax, and let me run this code first and then I will take the code and break it down for you. Okay. Let me quickly write down this code. Okay, let's clear the output and run this code. And it works. Okay, 1 to 10. It works. So how is this working? Let's take this code and try to understand. In the previous case, what are the operations that we did? First we took a variable I equal to 1 and we have initialized I to 1. So this part is initialization. And then what did we do? We added a condition. This is the condition. What is this? This is the condition. And inside the while loop, we did some operation and then we also did this incrementing part. So what is this? This is incrementing. Now, if we want to do all these three things in one line, then we use for loop. If you can see here, we have initialized. This is initialization. Initialize. And then this piece is the condition, I less than or equal to 10. We have condition. And then we have I plus plus. This is the increment. We did all these while using while loop, while using do while loop, and we can write all these three things in one line of code. So this is a lot simpler when you have this situation, when we need some variable, when we need some condition with that variable, and when we need to increment or decrement that particular variable, for loops are very handy. So let's say we are doing some other condition, like we are not using any variable while but we are using some other condition. Let's say I'm storing a boolean value. It raining, is raining, and I've given the value as true, and I have a while loop like this: while is raining, do something, do something. So if it's raining, maybe I can tell the user that it is raining, what is the temperature, what is the um, you know if I need an umbrella or not, and things like that. So in such cases, if this is a weather application, in such cases I'm not using any initialization, I'm not using any condition on some variable, and I'm not doing any increment decrement, I'm not doing any increment decrement. In that case, we don't need to use for loop, right? It doesn't work. Then we can simply use while loop. And when we have a variable and condition based on that variable, we can use for loop. Okay. So depending on the use case of the application, we choose whether we need to use while loop or do while loop or for loop. Okay. So for now, you read about these loops, you practice these loops with some fun examples if you want, and build your foundation with loops, because we're going to use loops a lot. And with that in mind, I think we have covered all the types of loops. In the next video, we will start looking at functions. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, and if you have any questions about this video or any other topic, please leave a comment and I will answer them. And don't forget to bookmark the playlist, and thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.